take a look at this guy. His name is Terrence Howard. And according to the caption, he has been ordered to pay years worth of income taxes. That's multiple years of income taxes, after reportedly saying that it was immoral to tax descendants of slaves. I got a question for the woke left. Well, for this guy, if he cares to call me. What if I'm a descendant of a slave? I mean, you don't know. I could do that DNA test and I could find out that maybe 7, 8 generations back that I have West African ancestry. And if that's true, is it immoral for me to pay income taxes? Okay, what's going on here? Well, let's scroll up. This is dailymail.co.uk. And I think it's also dailymail.com if you care to look it up. But it says activists seek huge tax write-off. Why do they say activist? I think because it lends a little bit of credibility to these people. For African Americans, as Reparations 2.0 billboards for rebates go up over Chicago. Not over Chicago, but all over Chicago. It's not like they're flying in airplanes or whatever. As tax dodge actor Terrence Howard praised. Okay, so he's an actor, and they say he's a tax dodger. It's kind of like a draft dodger. That's not a compliment. So dailymail.co.uk apparently is kind of on the fence on this one. You can tell by the tone of their reporting. So the idea here is reparations doesn't seem to be working. Nobody's paying attention to it. Nobody taking it seriously. I mean, some people are, but everyone knows it's not going to happen. It's just a bone of contention to throw out there. And please, you people from the woke left, explain this to me. Because I don't get it. Because you people are so brilliant and the rest of us are so dumb, you know. We're so dumb, a lot of us even supporting Donald Trump. I mean, how stupid can you get? But explain this to me from your reservoir of brilliance. Enlighten us. How is it conceivably possible that race can be a social construct, and at the same time you can make race-based decisions, such as giving people tax breaks? Now, what's the problem with this? Okay, I can understand how Terrence Howard probably has a sizable tax bill. If he's an actor, he probably has a decent income. Is that possible? I mean, these things the woke left just has to explain to you because they don't make sense on the surface, but they have this super intelligence that they can see things that the rest of us can't see. But this guy apparently is a descendant of a slave, but yet he's making a ton of money, I'm guessing. How is that possible? I thought descendants of slaves were all oppressed. And if he's not oppressed, I mean, it's not like he was the slave, right? And if he's not oppressed, he was not the slave, why does anybody owe him any money for slavery? I know the woke left understands this stuff, and they've got it all figured out, but it's beyond me. So a couple of those things we need to have explained. Why is it that, number one, you can have a race of people, a biological race of people, where race is just a social construct. You can have both at the same time. How is it conceivably possible that this guy may be a millionaire? I don't know how much he makes. But if he's a successful actor, which is not an easy thing to do, that means there must be opportunities open for people like him who are descendants of slaves. So what's the big issue? It's kind of like his success negates his argument. But again, you need the woke left to explain these things to you. Also, they need to explain how men can have babies, but that's a totally different topic. Tiffany Cross, the author and television host, I'm reading down here, and other presenters of the Native Land Pod. No idea what that is. I'm guessing it's a podcast. Here we go again. They're not Native Americans. That's a category reserved for what we used to call Indians before it became politically incorrect. Native land, their native land would have been Africa, right? Like my native land would have been Europe. Maybe. Now what if? What if I took one of those DNA tests and discovered that I have trace ancestry in Africa? Do I get a tax break? I'm a descendant. I mean, if that's true, then I would be a descendant of slaves. So I want my justice. All right. So now we're talking about property taxes here. So they put these billboards up over Chicago. Why are they doing that? I guess just to who's paying for these things? I mean, if they broke because of slavery, where are they getting the money to buy billboards? Billboards, by the way, are expensive. They also spotlight Empire star Terrence Howard. What is Empire? Is that a movie? Is that a TV series? Is that something on Netflix where they use black actors to play the roles of historically white people, that company? Or I don't know. But he was recently outed for refusing to pay years' worth of income dues, income taxes, I guess, as he felt it was immoral to tax the descendants of slaves. Well, that could be me. You know, I could have trace ancestry again of somebody who was from Western Africa who wound up in the USA or the colonies who was a slave. So it's immoral for me to pay income taxes. Thanks, Terrence. Nice to know that. There's one of the billboards there. Then it says across, a former MSNBC host praised Howard in her podcast, which looks at the ancestral struggles of African Americans. Again, social construct, but nah, it's not a social construct. Because they're the only ones who had ancestral struggles. You know, it's kind of like my ancestors. They got on a boat. That was about as big as this cabin I'm in, and they got on a boat and they sailed from Europe to the United States, and by the time they got here, half of them were dead. Now try that on an ocean liner today and see how far you get without getting sued. But that was the norm back then, but they didn't have any struggles. And once they got here, a lot of them were attacked. Some of them were massacred. Many of them starved to death, but no. They didn't have struggles, and then when they decided to move west and became settlers, they again were, many of them, slaughtered. Their homes were burned down. They were massacred. They did all kinds of things to them. I can't say who did it because, you know, we're on that platform, but no, we didn't have any struggles. Actually, it seems like we had more struggles than they did. I mean, they had struggles before they came here, right? I mean, the people who wound up being slaves in the USA, where did they come from? Don't say Africa, we already know that, but where did they come from in Africa? Well, they were not rounded up in their villages. Maybe a few of them were, but by and large, they were purchased. They were already slaves. So it's kind of like they were rescued. I got to be careful what I say because I'm going to make so many people mad. Yeah, woke people, they're extremely brilliant. They're smart. They figure these things out that no one else can seem to understand. But one thing they can't tolerate is being triggered. I mean, if you say things like, and I'm not going to say this because I'm going to get in trouble, but if I were to say something like slaves in America were better off than slaves in Africa, for example, which, you know, perish the thought, we're not even going to think of that. Yeah, I would trigger a lot of people. But, okay, so we're not even going to say it. After police killing of George Floyd in May 2020, and the Black Lives Matter protest, mostly peaceful protesters, never mind that there were scores of black people killed during those protests, cities, states across the country launched task force to tackle modern-day inequality rooted in slave era. Is it really inequality? I mean, if this guy's making, look at the suit that guy's wearing, for crying out loud. Looks like he's had a facial. I bet you can't see his hands, but I bet he's been manicured. I bet he's had pedicure. Nah, keep your shoes and socks on. We don't want to find out. But early calls for multi-million-dollar payouts to the descendants of slaves have fizzled out as politicians realized they were unpopular amongst whites, Asians, and others who would foot the bill. No kidding. You mean to tell me there are members of the bourgeois class who are not white? That's a new flip, but yeah, Asians are now. I mean, they're supposed to be people of color, right? Where are these people doing this? They keep changing back and forth. All right, one more thing. California's black lawmakers last month unveiled a package of bills on reparations for black residents that makes no mention of the 1.2 million payouts that were promised earlier. So we're going to give reparations to black people who, by and large, are so oppressed economically that they don't even pay taxes. So we're going to give a tax break to people who don't pay taxes, except maybe this guy just wants a tax for himself because he seems to be the exception in that community. Maybe, I'm just guessing here, and again, this is something that I'm not even going to utter out loud because I get in trouble for it. But maybe they're not concerned about justice. Maybe they're not concerned about reparations. Maybe they're just looking for a shakedown. I mean, it's conceivably possible, right? But that is so offensive that I'm not even going to mention it. See you all next time.